everybody, it's Nathaniel Avila, and we're here with Jessica Vega's shocked face. So what do we do? What do we talk about?
Oh, well, we are a crime. That's what we talk about.
Okay.
Crimes that have been committed by bad people.
Yeah. So, do you know what we're talking about today?
Can you not hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah. Today we are talking about some more Trumpy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And today we had like a big bomb drop.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll get to that. So today is gonna be led by Nathaniel.
Right. So today we're going to be talking about...
This topic is going to be about the
Russian interference in the 2016 United States elections. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a big one. All right, so let's get started.
You're right.
So this long journey starts all the way back in May 2014. The Ukrainian presidential election, which was disrupted by cyber attacks over several days, including the release of hacked emails, attempted alterations of vote tallies, and distributed denial of service attacks to delay the final result. They were found to have been launched by pro-Russian hackers. Malware that have been displayed a graphic declaring far-right candidate Dmytro Yarosh the electoral winner was removed from Ukraine's Central Election Commission less than an hour before the polls closed. Despite this, Channel 1 Russia falsely reported that Yarosh had won, fabricating a fake graphic from the Election Commission's website. Political scientist Peter Ordashuk said in 2017 these faked results were geared for a specific audience in order to feed the Russian narrative that is claimed from the start that ultra-nationalists and Nazis were behind the revolution in Ukraine. The same Sophosy malware used in the Central Election Commission hack was later found on the servers of the Democratic National Committee around the same time as Russia's attempt to hack the 2014 elections. The Obama administration received a report suggesting that the Kremlin was building a disinformation program which could be used to interfere in Western politics. So, fast forward to December 2016, two Senator Alliance intelligence officials told several U.S. news media outlets that they were highly confident that the operation to interfere in the 2016 presidential election was personally directed by Vladimir Putin. So under Putin's direction, the goals of the operation evolved from first undermining America's trust in democracy and undermining Clinton's campaign, and by the fall of 2016 to directly helping Trump's campaign because Putin thought Trump would ease economic sanctions. Now, the officials believe that Putin became personally involved after Russia accessed the DNC computers because such operations should require high-level government approval. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest and Obama Foreign Policy Director, Advisor, and speechwriter Ben Rhodes agreed with his assessment that Rhodes saying operations of this magnitude required Putin's consent. So what are we thinking so far? Oh no, there you are.
I don't know. Right now, I'm trying to find what you're looking at. I said, right now, I don't know what to think. I'm just taking it in.
All right, let's continue. So, in January 2017, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence delivered a declassified report representing the work of the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA with a similar conclusion. So this is what it says. So, President Vladimir Putin ordered an influence campaign in 2016 aimed at the U.S. presidential election. Russia's goals were to undermine public faith in the U.S. democratic process, denigrate Secretary Clinton, and harm her electability and potential presidency. We further assess Putin and Russian government developed a clear preference for the president-elect Trump. We have high confidence in these judgments. So Putin blamed Clinton for the 2011 to 2012 mass protests in Russia against his rule, according to the report. Now, Clinton was U.S. Secretary of State at the time. And FBI Director James Comey also testified that Putin disliked Clinton and preferred her opponent. And Clinton herself has accused Putin of having a grudge against her. So Michael McFaul, who was U.S. ambassador to Russia, said the operation could be a retaliation by Putin against Clinton. Russia security expert Andrei Soldatov has said that the Kremlin believes that with Clinton in the White House, it will be almost impossible to lift sanctions against Russia. So it is very important for Putin personally. This is a question of national security for Russia. So Russian officials have denied allegations multiple times. In June 2016, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denied any connection of Russia to the DNC hacks. In December 2016, when U.S. intelligence officials publicly accused Putin of being directly involved in the covert operation, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said he was astonished by this nonsense. Putin also has denied any Kremlin involvement in the election campaign, though in June 2017 he told journalists that patriotically minded Russian hackers may have been responsible for the campaign cyber attacks against the U.S. And in 2018, he stated that he had wanted Trump to win the election because he talked about bringing the U.S.-Russia relationship back to normal. All right, so what are we feeling so far?
Well, it just sounds like so far that he's trying to get back at the Putin,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it kind of stinks that we have to suffer for just because he has a grudge.
But somebody held that to their advantage.
So, the United States Department of State planned to use the unit formed with the intention of combating disinformation from the Russian government, but it was disbanded on September 2015 after department heads missed the scope of propaganda before the 2016 U.S. election. The unit had been in development for 8 months prior to being scrapped. Titled the Counter Disinformation Team, it would have been a reboot of the Active Measures Working Group set up by the Reagan administration. It was created under the Bureau of International Information Programs. Work began in 2014 with the intention of countering propaganda from Russia's sources, such as the TV network RT, formerly called Russia Today. A beta website was ready, and staff were hired by the U.S. State Department for the unit prior to its cancellation. U.S. intelligence officials explained to the former National Security Agency analyst and counterintelligence officer John R. Schindler, writing in the New York Observer, published at the time by Jared Kushner, who is, the current White House. I believe he's the current White House chief strategist, or maybe he's the senior advisor, and Trump's son-in-law.
He's a senior advisor.
Senior advisor, okay.
Yeah.
That the Obama administration decided to cancel the unit as they were afraid of antagonizing Russia. A State Department representative told the International Business Times, after being contacted regarding the disclosure of the unit, that the U.S. was disturbed by propaganda from Russia. And the strongest defense was sincere connection. So the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy, Richard Stengel, was the point person for the unit before it was canceled. Stengel had written in 2014 that RT was engaged in a disinformation campaign about the Ukraine. So in April 2017, Reuters cited several unnamed U.S. officials as having stated that the Russian Institute for Strategic Studies had developed a strategy to sway the U.S. election to Donald Trump, and failing that, to disillusion voters. So the development of strategy was allegedly ordered by Putin and directed by former officers of Russian Foreign Intelligence retired SVR General Leonid Petrovich Reshetnikov, having head of the RISS at the time. The institute had been taken part of the SVR until 2009, whereafter it has worked for the Russian presidential administration. The U.S. officials said the propaganda efforts began in March 2016. The first set of recommendations issued in June 2016 proposed that the Russia report support a candidate for U.S. president more favorable to Russia than Obama had been, via Russian-backed news outlets and a social media campaign. It supported Trump until October, when another conclusion was made that Hillary Clinton was likely to win, and the strategy should be modified to work to undermine U.S. voters' faith in their electoral system and a Clinton presidency by alleging voter fraud in the election. RISS Director Mikhail Fredkov and Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denied the allegations. So what do we think so far?
I just think, yeah, it's already bad. It's going bad.
So according to February 20...
It's
what?
crappy.
Yeah. So according to February 28...
It's just crappy.
Yeah, why is it bad?
Really? Because I think even though they did all their investigations, it's still... I'm sorry, but money talks, and he has his money in every pocket, and any little bit of bad information that somebody can find up on somebody that's any bit embarrassing that people don't want to come out, they can use it to their advantage. This is what goes on in my head. I see too many movies, maybe. That's why I go off on these kind of things, but he was going to win no matter what in my head.
Yeah, because he had help by the Russians.
And then what did... Okay, go on. We'll get there.
Okay. So according to a February 2018 criminal indictment, more than 2 years after the election, 2 Russian women obtained visas for what the indictment alleged was a 3-week reconnaissance tour of the United States, including battleground states such as Colorado, Michigan, Nevada, and New Mexico, to gather intelligence on American politics. The 2018 indictment alleged that other Russian operatives visited Atlanta on November 2014 on a similar mission. In order to establish American identities for individuals and groups within specific several social media communities, hundreds of mail, PayPal, and bank accounts and fraudulent driver's licenses were created for fictitious Americans, and sometimes real Americans, whose social security numbers had been stolen. So according to the Special Counsel of Investigation's Mueller report, officially named the report on the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. What's so funny?
Go on.
Oh,
Carry on.
I thought I saw you laughing. Okay, so the first method of Russian interference, the Russian interference used in the Internet Research Agency, a Kremlin-linked troll farm, to wage a social media campaign that favored presidential candidate Donald J. Trump, had disparaged presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Now, for those who don't know what a troll farm is an institutionalized group of internet trolls aimed to interfere in political opinions and decision-making. So on February 2016, international IRA documents showed an order to support the candidates of Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, while IRA members were to use any opportunity to criticize Hillary Clinton and the rest of the candidates. From June 2016, the IRA organized campaign rallies in the U.S., often promoting Trump's campaign while opposing Clinton's campaign. The IRA posed as Americans hiding their Russian background while asking Trump campaign members for campaign buttons, flyers, and posters for the rallies. Now, the Russian use of a social media to disseminate propaganda content was very broad. Facebook and Twitter were used, but also Reddit, Tumblr, Pinterest, Medium, YouTube, Vine, and Google+. Now, Instagram was by far the most used platform, and one that largely remained out of the public eye until late 2018. The Mueller report lists IRA-created groups on Facebook, including purported conservative groups like the Tea Party News, purported black social justice groups like Blacktivists, LGBTQ groups like LGBT United, and religious groups like United Muslims of America. The IRA Twitter accounts included 10_GOP, claiming to be related to the Tennessee Republican Party, Jen_Abrams, and Pamela_Moore 13, both claimed to be Trump supporters, and both had 70,000 followers. So what are we feeling so far?
Have you ever heard of those accounts that people, I don't know what happens to them. Their accounts that get hacked, and then people tell them, and they have like thousands of followers. They go in and they take everything out of the account, but the followers are still there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't delete followers.
No, you can't delete followers, but you could buy an account with all these followers because they think that they're following this other account that they liked at one point, and then boom, you have all these followers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
so
you
maybe
can
that's what that was.
Yeah, you can definitely buy followers, which are really just bots, and make you look more like popular than you really are.
What it is it's accounts that were they were real accounts, and these people that are following them are real followers, but the account has been either hacked and sold, and everything that was in it has been taken out, but the followers don't realize that they are liking something else that's been sold to something else.
Okay. All right, that's very interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, if you go search YouTube channels for sale, you'll find all of these, and depending on the amount of followers that it has, the higher the price. The higher the followers, the more expensive the account is.
It sounds like some real dark web type stuff.
It's crazy because the only reason I heard of it is because I remember there was this one chick that was getting a lot of crap for all of a sudden she had all these followers, and people were saying that she bought followers from buying this account that had all these followers, and that's what she did.
Yeah,
she did
do that.
Yeah. So that's what it reminds me of, these two fake people that had all of a sudden 70,000 followers. Like, this is something that you can do.
Okay, so other people who respond to the IRA social media accounts include Michael McFaul, Sean Hannity, Roger Stone, and Michael Flynn Jr. Now, advertisements bought by Russian operatives for the Facebook social media site were estimated to have reached 10 million users, but many more Facebook users were contacted by accounts created by Russian actors. 470 Facebook accounts are known to have been created by Russians during the 2016 campaign. Of those accounts, 6 generated content that was shared at least 340 million times. According to research done by Jonathan Albright, research director for the Columbia University's Tao Center for Digital Journalism, the most strident internet promoters of Trump were paid Russian propagandists, who are estimated by The Guardian to number several thousand. By 2017, the U.S. news media was focusing on the Russian operations on Facebook and Twitter, and Russian operatives moved on to Instagram. So the Mueller report found the IRA spent $100,000 for more than 3,500 Facebook advertisements from June 2015 to May 2017, which included anti-Clinton and pro-Trump advertisements. In comparison, Trump and Clinton campaigns spent $81 million on Facebook ads. So fabricated articles and disinformation were spread from the Russian government-controlled outlets RT and Sputnik to be popularized on pro-Russian accounts on Twitter and other social media. So researchers have compared Russian tactics during the 2016 U.S. elections to the active measures of the Soviet Union during the Cold War, but made easier by the use of social media. So, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah. I said, yeah, That's the way it is with social media. It's super easy now.
Right. So, monitoring 7,000 pro-Trump social media accounts over a 2.5-year period,
I
researchers
don't know where you're.
researchers J.M. Berger, Andrew Weisberg, and Clint Watts found the accounts denigrated critics of Russian activities in Syria and propagated falsehoods about Clinton's health. So Watts found Russian propaganda to be aimed at fomenting dissent or conspiracies against the U.S. government and its institutions, and by autumn of 2016, amplifying attacks on Clinton and support for Trump via social media, internet trolls, botnets, and websites. Continuing on. So, monitoring news on Twitter directed at one state, which was Michigan, prior to the election, Philip and Howard found about half of it fabricated or untrue. The other half came from real news sources. So, Facebook originally denied that Facebook on their platform had influenced the election and had insisted...
Yeah, a minute. It's just going to take a little bit because it's taking a while to load.
Okay. So it insisted it was unaware of any Russian financed advertisements, but later admitted that about 126 million Americans may have seen posts published by Russian-based operatives. So, criticized for failing to stop fake news from spreading on its platform during the 2016 election, Facebook originally thought that fake news problem could be solved by engineering, but in May 2017, it announced plans to hire 3,000 content reviewers. Do you know anything about that?
Nope.
Okay. So, according to an analysis by BuzzFeed, the 20 top performing false election stories from hoax sites and hyper-partisan blogs generated 8,711,000 shares, reactions, and comments on Facebook. On September 2017, Facebook told congressional investigators it had discovered that hundreds of fake accounts linked to a Russian troll farm had bought $100,000 in advertisements targeting the 2016 U.S. election audience. The ads, which ran between June 2015 and May 2017, primarily focused on divisive social issues. Roughly 25% were geographically targeted. Facebook also turned over information about the Russian-related ad buys to Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Approximately 3,000 adverts...
Negative, Captain.
What? So, approximately 3,000 adverts were involved, and these were viewed by 4 and 5 million Facebook users prior to the election. So on November 1st, 2017, the House Intelligence Committee released a sample of Facebook ads and pages that had been financially linked to the Internet Research Agency. So according to the Mueller report, the second method of Russian interference saw the Russian intelligence service, or the GRU, hacking into into email accounts owned by volunteers and employees of the Clinton presidential campaign, including that of campaign chairman John Podesta, and also hacking into the computer networks of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the Democratic National Committee. As a result, the GRU obtained hundreds of thousands of hacked documents, and the GRU proceeded by arranging releases of damaging hacked material via the WikiLeaks organization and also GRU's personas DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0. So starting in March 2016, the Russian Military Intelligence Agency, GRU, sent spear phishing emails targeting more than 300 individuals affiliated with the Democratic Party or the Clinton campaign. According to the Special Counsel's July 13, 2018 indictment, using malware to explore the computer networks of the DNC and the DCCC, they harvested tens of thousands of emails and attachments and deleted computer logs and files to obscure evidence of their activities. These were saved and released in stages to the public during the 3 months before the 2016 election, and some were released strategically to distract the public from media events that were either beneficial to the Clinton campaign or harmful to Trump's. So, what are we thinking about this so far?
Juicy. and juicy.
Yeah.
And spicy.
Yeah. So the first tranche of 19,000 emails and 8,000 attachments was released on July 22nd, 2016, 3 days before the Democratic convention. The resulting news covers created the impression that the Democratic National Committee was biased against Clinton's Democratic primary challenger, Bernie Sanders, who received 43% of votes cast in the Democratic presidential primaries, and forced DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz to resign, disrupting the plans of the Clinton campaign. A second tranche was released on October 7th, a few hours after the Obama administration released a statement by the Department of Homeland Security and the Director of National Intelligence accusing the Russian government of interfering in the election through hacking, and just 29 minutes after the Washington Post reported on the Access Hollywood videotape where Trump boasted about grabbing women by their private areas. The stolen documents effectively distracted media and voter attention from both stories. So stolen emails and documents were given both to platforms created by hackers, a website called DC Links, and a persona called Guccifer 2.0, claiming to be a lone hacker, and to WikiLeaks. The Russians registered the domain dcleaks.com using principally Bitcoin to pay for the domain and the hosting. So that's that. So how are we thinking about this so far? Do we see like the strategy that they're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see it.
Mm-hmm. So John Podesta, chairman of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, received a phishing email on March 19th, 2016, sent by Russian operatives, purporting to alert him of a compromise in the system and urging him to change his password immediately by clicking on a link. This allowed Russian hackers to access 60,000 emails from Podesta's private account. So John Podesta later told Meet the Press that the FBI spoke to him only once regarding his hacked emails, and that he had not been sure what had been taken until a month before the election on October 7th, when WikiLeaks' Julian Assange started dumping them out and said that they would all dump out. That's when I knew, I meaning Podesta, that they had the contents of my email account. So
what do you think about Julian Assange?
I don't know. I think he started pretty noble, but then he kind of started getting a little bit, off his rocker a little bit. It kind of sounds like he got drunk with power.
Yeah, I agree with that theory. That's how I see it too. Because at first it's like, wow, that's pretty freaking ballsy of him to say all this stuff, tell us all this stuff, and then it started getting a little bit like too much.
Yeah, it sounds like he's doing it for his own benefit, like with this whole thing right here.
Okay.
So, like, the WikiLeaks October 7th dump started less than an hour after the Washington Post released the Donald Trump and Billy Bush recording, Access Hollywood tape. So, WikiLeaks announced on Twitter that it was in possession of 50,000 of Podesta's emails, and a few hours after the Obama administration released a statement by the Department of Homeland Security and the Director of National Intelligence stating the U.S. intelligence community is confident that the Russian government directed the recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, including the U.S. political organizations. It initially released 2,050 of these. The cache included emails containing transcripts of Clinton's paid speeches to Wall Street banks, controversial comments from staffers about Catholic voters, infighting among employees of the Clinton campaign, as well as potential vice presidential picks for Clinton. The Clinton campaign did not confirm or deny the authenticity of the emails, but emphasized that they were stolen and distributed by parties hostile to Clinton, and that top national security officials had stated that documents can be faked as part of a sophisticated Russian misinformation campaign. So Podesta's emails, once released by WikiLeaks, formed the basis for Pizzagate, a debunked conspiracy theory that falsely posited that Podesta and other Democratic officials were involved in a child trafficking ring based out of pizzerias in Washington, D.C., which I'm planning on going over that as well, because that is wild. That's a wild story in and of itself.
Has it been debunked, though?
It has been.
It has been? I don't know anything about it. I just know that it's been thrown out from here to there. And the Podesta emails was another thing that was trending. When you get onto that hashtag, it takes you into another whole freaking, you know?
Like, trust me, it's not real. He was just ordering pizza. He was just ordering pizza, and then people were like, it's code for pedophilia. It's so dumb.
Just like I don't know. People say the same thing with the Tom Hanks taking a picture, and it was like some sort of barcode for somebody, like human trafficking, or I don't know. It was like a picture he took on like a street, something.
That's so stupid.
Tom Hanks is my dude.
I know.
I love him.
He wouldn't do that. We'll go over
never.
Yeah, we'll go over the Pizzagate thing another time. That's a story for another day.
Sure.
So the GRU, using names like Cozy Bear and Fancy Bear, gained access to the computer network of the Democratic National Committee, a formal governing body of the Democratic Party, in July 2015, and maintained it until at least June 2016, when they began linking the stolen information via the Guccifer 2.0 online persona. Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned as DNC chairwoman following the release of emails by WikiLeaks and showed DNC officials discussing Bernie Sanders in his presidential campaign in a derisive and derogatory manner. Emails leaked included personal information about Democratic Party donors with credit card and social security numbers. Emails by Wasserman Schultz calling the Sanders campaign official a darn liar. Following the July 22nd publication of a large number of hacked emails by WikiLeaks, the FBI announced that it would investigate the theft of the DNC emails. Now we're going to go over the results of that investigation. So in June and July 2016, cybersecurity expert and firms including CrowdStrike, Fidelis FireEye, Mandiant, SecureWorks, Symantec, and ThreatConnect stated the DNC email leaks were part of a series of cyber attacks on the DNC committed by two Russian intelligence groups called Fancy Bear and Cozy Bear, also known respectively as APT-28 and APT-29, or the Dukes. ThreatConnect also noted possible links between the DC Leaks project and Russian intelligence operations because of the similarity with Fancy Bear attack patterns. So SecureWorks added that the Vector Group was operating from Russia on behalf of the Russian government. Der Volkskrant later reported that Dutch intelligence agency AIVD, or AIVD, had penetrated the Russian hacking group Cozy Bear in 2014 and observed them in 2015 hack the State Department in real time while capturing pictures of the hackers via the security camera in their workspace. So American, British, and Dutch intelligence services also observed stolen emails on Russian military intelligence networks. So how are we feeling so far?
Just taking in the information.
Really? Because I think you didn't hear a lot of what I said because you were talking
It's a
somebody
lot.
else.
I didn't hear a little bit of it because, yes, I have people.
Okay. All right, so you're moving on. So on October 7th, 2016, Secretary Johnson and Director Clapper issued a joint statement that the intelligence community is confident the Russian government directed the recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, included from U.S. political organizations, and that the disclosures of hacked emails on sites like DC Leaks and WikiLeaks are consistent with the Russian-directed efforts. So, in July 2018, indictment by the Justice Department of 12 Russian GRU intelligence officials posing as a Guccifer 2.0 persona for conspiring to interfere with the 2016 elections was for hacking into the computers of the Clinton campaign, the Democratic National Committee, state election boards, and secretaries of several states. The indictment describes a sprawling and sustained cyber attack on at least 300 people connected to the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign. The leaked stolen files were released in stages, a tactic wreaking havoc on the Democratic Party throughout much of the election season. So one collection of data that hackers obtained and that may have become a devastating weapon against the Clinton campaign was the campaign's data analytics and voter turnout models, extremely useful in targeting messages to key constituencies that Clinton needed to mobilize. These voters were later bombarded by Russian operatives with negative information about Clinton on social media. So now we're going to talk about WikiLeaks.
Okay.
So on April 2017, CIA Director Mike Pompeo said WikiLeaks was a hostile intelligence agency aided by foreign states, including Russia, and that the U.S. intelligence community included that Russia's propaganda outlet, RT, had conspired with WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks and its founder, Julian Assange, have made a number of statements denying that the Russian government was the source of material. However, an anonymous CIA official said that the Russian officials transferred the hacked emails into WikiLeaks using a circuitous route from Russia's military intelligence services to WikiLeaks via third parties. So in a leaked private message on Twitter, Assange wrote that the 2016 election, it would be much better for GOP to win, and that Hillary Clinton was a sadistic sociopath. So what do we say to that?
I think the choice between those two is still,
Mm-hmm.
but
I don't know. I still prefer the other person.
Yeah. No, hopefully this year's a different one.
I think we're all smarter now. So, Hillary Clinton was not the only Democrat attacked. Caches of Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee documents stolen by Guccifer 2.0 were also released to reporters and bloggers around the U.S. As one Democratic candidate put it, our entire internal strategy plan was made public, and suddenly all this material was out there and could be used against me. The New York Times noted the seats that Guccifer 2.0 targeted in the document dumps were hardly random. They were some of the most competitive House races in the country. So on July 10th, 2017, FBI Director James Comey told the Senate Intelligence Committee that Russia succeeded in collecting some information from the Republican-affiliated targets, but did not leak it to the public. On earlier statements, an FBI official stated Russian attempts to access the RNC server were unsuccessful, or had reportedly told the RNC chair that their servers were secure, but that email accounts of several individual Republicans, including Colin Powell, were breached. Over 200 emails from Colin Powell were posted on the website DC Leaks. One state Republican party, which is Illinois, may have had some of its email accounts hacked. Now, civil DNC. Okay, so this is what this is. On October 20th, 2018, the Democratic National Committee filed a civil lawsuit in the federal court in New York accusing the Russian government, the Trump campaign, WikiLeaks, and others of the conspiracy to alter the course of the 2016 presidential election, and asking for monetary damages and declaration admitting guilt. The lawsuit was dismissed by the judge because New York does not recognize the specific tort claims pressed in the suit. The judge did not make the finding on whether there was or was not collusion between the defendants and Russia during the 2016 presidential election. So, At a news conference on July 27, 2016, Trump publicly called on Russia to hack the release of Hillary Clinton's deleted emails from her private server during her tenure in the State Department. So this is what he says. Remember this? He says, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 330,000 emails that were missing. I think you'll probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Ha 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 ha. So, Trump's comment was condemned by the press and political figures, including some Republicans. He stated that he had been speaking sarcastically, right? Several Democratic senators said Trump's comments...
Like everything else.
Jeez, yeah. Trump's comments appeared to violate the Logan Act. And Harvard Law School professor Lawrence Tribb added that Trump's call could be treasonous. So on July 2018, federal indictment of Russian GRU agents said that the first attempt by Russian hackers to infiltrate the computer servers inside Clinton's offices took place on the same day, which was July 27, 2016. Trump made his Russia if you're listening appeal, while no direct link with Trump's trademark was alleged in the indictment. So journalist Jane Mayer called the timing striking. Trump asserted in March 2019 that he had been joking when he made the remark. Katie Torr of NBC News had interviewed Trump immediately after the 2016 remark, noting she gave him an opportunity to characterize it as a joke, but he did not. So, what do you think of that?
It's a piece of work.
Mm-hmm. So, in her analysis of the Russian influence of the 2016 election, Kathleen Hall Jamieson argues that Russians align themselves with the geographic and demographic objectives of the Trump campaign, using trolls, social media, and hacked information to target uncertain important constituencies. According to Vox, the Russian Internet Research Agency focused on the culture of Muslims, Christians, Texas, and LGBTQ people to engage those communities as part of a broader strategy to deepen social political divisions within the U.S., but no other group received as much attention as African Americans, whose voter turnout had been historically crucial to the election of Democrats. Russia intelligence campaign used an array of tactics aiming to reduce their vote for Hillary Clinton, according to a December 2018 report commissioned by the Senate Intelligence Committee. So, a total of 30 Facebook pages targeting Black Americans and 10 YouTube channels that posted 571 videos related to police violence against African Americans. The covertly Russian Instagram account Blackstagram had more than 300,000 followers. A variety of Facebook pages targeting African Americans and later determined to the Russian amassed a total of 1.2 million individual followers. The report found. So the Facebook page for the Russian Blacktivists garnered more hits than Black Lives Matter's non-Russian Facebook page. Influence operations included recruiting typically unknowing assets who could stage events and spread content from Russian influencers, spreading videos of police abuse, and spreading misleading information about how to vote and whom to vote for. So, do you see how they're playing the game?
I see it.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing hardball.
Yeah. So, at least 25 social media pages drawing 1.4 million followers were created by Russian agents to target the American political right and promote the Trump candidacy. An example of targeting was the adding of Blue Lives Matter material to social media platforms by Russian operatives after the Black Lives Matter movement moved to the center of public attention in America and sparked a pro-police reaction. Jameson noted there was reason to believe Donald Trump would underperform among two normally dependable conservative Republican voting blocs, which was church-going Christians and military service members and their families. It was thought pious Christians were put off by Trump's lifestyle as a Manhattan socialite. Known for his 3 marriages and many affairs, but not for any religious beliefs who had boasted of who have boasted groping women. Military personnel might lack enthusiasm for a candidate who avoided service in Vietnam, but who described himself as a brave soldier in having to face his personal Vietnam of the threat of sexually transmitted diseases, and who mocked Gold Star parents and former prisoner of war John McCain. To overcome Trump's possible poor reputation among evangelicals, and veterans, Russian trolls created memes that exploited typical conservative social attitudes about people of color, Muslims, and immigrants. One such meme juxtaposed photographs of a homeless veteran and an undocumented immigrant, alluding to the belief that undocumented immigrants receive special treatment. CNN exit polls showed that Trump led Clinton among veterans by 26 percentage points and won a higher percentage of evangelical vote than either of the two previous Republican presidential nominees, indicating that this tactic may have succeeded. So, what do you feel about that?
I don't know.
You don't know? What's not to know?
I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know how to feel about it.
Oh, okay. Well, in a 2019 report by the Senate Intelligence Committee found an unprecedented level of activity against state election infrastructure by Russian intelligence in 2016. The activity occurred in all 50 states and is thought by many officials and experts to have been a trial run to probe American defenses and identify weaknesses in the vast back-end apparatus, voter registration operations, state and local election databases, electronic poll books, and other equipment of state election systems. So the report warned that the United States remains vulnerable in the 2020 election. Of particular concern to the committee report was the Russians' hacking of 3 companies that provide states with the back-end systems that have increasingly replaced the thick binders of paper used to verify voters' identities and registration status. So, during the summer and fall of 2016, Russian hackers intruded into voter databases and software systems in 39 different states, alarming Obama administration officials to the point that they took an unprecedented step of contacting Moscow directly via the Moscow-Washington hotline and warning that the attacks risked setting off a broader conflict. As early as June 2016, the FBI sent a warning to states about bad actors probing state election systems to seek vulnerabilities. In September 2016, FBI Director James Comey testified before the House Judiciary Committee that the FBI was investigating Russian hackers attempted to disrupt the 2016 election and the federal investigators that detected hacker-related activities in state voter registration databases, which independent assessments determined were soft targets for hackers. Comey stated that there were multiple attempts to hack voter database registrations. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper attributed Russian hacking attempts to Vladimir Putin. So who do you think it is? Is it?
Yeah, it's Putin.
Okay. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm looking at the article like, duh.
Okay. So in August 2016, the FBI issued a nationwide flash alert warning state election officials about hacking attempts. On September 2016, U.S. Department of Homeland Security officials and the National Association of Secretaries of State announced that hackers had penetrated or sought to penetrate the voter registration systems in more than 20 states over the previous few months. Federal investigators attributed these attempts to Russian government-sponsored hackers, and specifically to Russian intelligence agencies. 4 of the intrusions into voter registration databases were successful, including intrusions into the Illinois and Arizona databases. Although the hackers did not appear to change or manipulate data, Illinois officials said information on up to 200,000 registered voters were stolen. The FBI and DHS increased their election security coordination efforts with state officials as a result. Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson reported that 18 states had requested a voting system security assistance from DHS. The department also offered risk assessments to the states, but just 4 states expressed interest, as the election was rapidly approaching. The reports of the database intrusions prompted alarm from Senate Minority Leader Henry Reid, Democrat of Nevada, who wrote to the FBI saying foreign attempts could cast doubt on free and fair elections was a danger to democracy not seen since the Cold War. So on September 22nd, 2017, federal authorities notified the election officials of 21 states that their election systems had been targeted. In most cases, states said that they were told the systems were not breached. Over a year after the initial warnings, this was the first official confirmation any state governments received that their state specifically had been targeted. Moreover, top election officials in the states of Wisconsin and California have denied the federal claim. So California Secretary of State Alex Padilla said California voters can further rest assured that the California Secretary of State elections infrastructure and websites were not hacked or breached by Russian cyber actors. Our notification from DHS last Friday was not only a year late, but it also turned out to be bad information. So on May 2018, the Senate Intelligence Committee released its interim report on election security. The committee concluded on a bipartisan basis that the response of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to Russian government-sponsored efforts to undermine confidence in the U.S. voting process was inadequate. The committee reported to the Russian government was able to penetrate election systems in at least 8 and possibly up to 21 states, and that a smaller subset of states, infiltrators, could have been altered or deleted voter registration data, although they hacked the ability to manipulate individual votes or vote tallies. The committee wrote that the infiltrators' failure to exploit vulnerabilities in election systems could have been because they decided against taking action or because they were merely gathering information and testing capabilities for a future attack. To prevent future infiltrations, the committee made a number of recommendations, including that of a minimum any machine purchase going forward could have voter verified paper trail and no Wi-Fi capability. And by January 2017, a multi-agency investigation conducted by the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Justice Department, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and representatives of the DNI was underway, looking into how the Russian government may have secretly financed efforts to help Trump win the election had been conducted over several months by several agencies. Investigations into Carter Page, Paul Manafort, and Roger Stone were underway on January 19th, the eve of the presidential inauguration. So, how do we feel so far about the Russian intervention? Do we feel like there is an intervention?
Yeah.
So you're completely convinced that this was obviously this past election was obviously rigged by the Russians.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's yeah. And we're just barely scratching the surface.
Yeah.
So, by January 2018, the FBI was investigating a possible funneling of illegal money by Alexander Torshin, deputy governor of the Central Bank of Russia, through the National Rifle Association, which was then used to help Donald Trump win the presidency. Torshin is known to have close connections to both Russia's President Vladimir Putin and the NRA. He had been charged with the money laundering in other countries. So I saw you shaking your head on the NRA thing. What do you feel about the NRA?
Oh, I'm not against them or anything like that.
Well, let's see how you are after hearing this. So the NRA reported spending $30 million to support the 2016 Trump campaign, 3 times what it had spent on Mitt Romney on 2012, and spent more than any other independent group, including the leading Trump super PAC. Sources with connections to the NRA have stated that the actual amount spent was much higher than $30 million. The subunits within the organization which made the donations were not generally required to disclose their donors. Spanish special prosecutor Jose Grinda Gonzalez has said that in early 2018, the Spanish police gave wiretap audio to the FBI of telephone discussions between Torsion and convicted money launderer and mafia boss Alexander Romanov. Torsion met with Donald Trump Jr. at an NRA event in May 2016 while attempting to broker a meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Maria Butina, a Russian anti-gun control activist, had served as a special assistant to Torsion and came to the U.S. on a student visa to attend university classes in Washington. Both claimed before and after the election that she was part of the Trump campaign's communications with Russia. Like Torsion, she cultivated a close relationship with the NRA. In February 2016, Butina started consulting business called Bridges LLC with Republican political operative Paul Erickson. During Trump's presidential campaign, Erickson contacted Rick Dearborn, one of Trump's advisors, writing in an email that he had close ties both to the NRA and to Russia, and asking how a back-channel meeting between Trump and Putin could be set up. The email was later turned over to federal investigators as part of the inquiry into Russia's meddling in the presidential election. On May 15th, 2018, Butina was arrested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and charged with conspiring to act as an unregistered Russian agent who had attempted to create a back channel of communications between American Republicans, conservatives, and Russian officials by infiltrating the National Rifle Association, the National Prayer Breakfast, and conservative religious organizations. So, as of April 2018, Mueller's investigators were examining whether Russian oligarchs directly or indirectly provided illegal cash donations to the Trump campaign and inauguration. Investigators were claiming whether oligarchs invested in American companies or think tanks having political action committees connected to the campaign, as well as money funneled through American straw donors to the Trump campaign and inaugural fund. At least one oligarch, Victor Vekselberg, was detained and his electronic devices searched as he arrived at a New York area airport in his private jet in early 2018. Vekselberg was questioned about hundreds of thousands of dollars in payments made to Michael Cohen after the election through Columbus Nova, the American affiliate of Vekselberg's Renova Group. Another oligarch was also detained on a recent trip to the United States, but it is unclear if he was searched. Investigators have also asked a third oligarch who has not traveled to the United States to voluntarily provide documents and an interview, which I don't believe he did. So, what are we thinking so far? So now we're talking about all this dirty money being funneled through the NRA and being donated by Russian oligarchs to the Trump campaign.
Okay, so from what I understand, the Democrats are for gun control, and I think a lot of people think the Democrats don't care for guns or want guns, and the Republicans are the total opposite of that. Second Amendment, all about the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, keep our guns, we want our guns. So I have a feeling that that's why the NRA invested so much in Trump as a Republican, because, you know, they are the NRA.
Right.
And so I as much as I don't want to, I don't not like the NRA, but of course it sucks that they invested so much into this person. Mm-hmm. But I think it's they're thinking of their game. What are they going to get from it? They're going to get to keep things the way they are.
Right. So,
with having Trump in there.
What about the Russian oligarchs donating money to him?
Well, I don't even know about that.
Okay.
I
So,
have no idea. I don't know what to say about that, but
so
obviously, hello.
a little what? A little sus.
Yes. I mean, it, if it's people from Russia, it's Russian. It's to me, it's not good.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, in part because U.S. agencies cannot surveil U.S. citizens without a warrant, the U.S. was slow to recognize the pattern itself. From late 2015 until summer of 2016, during routine surveillance of Russians, several countries discovered interactions between the Trump campaign and Moscow. The UK, Germany, Estonia, Poland, and Australia, and possibly the Netherlands and France, relayed their discoveries to the US. Because the materials were highly sensitive, GCHQ Director Robert Hannigan contacted CIA Director John O. Brennan directly to give him the information. Concerned, Brennan had gave classified briefings to U.S. Congress the U.S. Congress's Gang of Eight during late August and September 2016, referring only to intelligence allies and not to specific sources. Brennan told the Gang of Eight he had received evidence that Russia might be trying to help Trump win the U.S. election. It was later revealed that the CIA had obtained intelligence from sources inside the Russian government and stated that Putin gave direct orders to disparage Clinton and help Trump. On May 23rd, 2017, Brennan stated that the House Intelligence Committee that Russian brazenly interfered in 2016 U.S. elections. He had first picked up on Russia's active meddling last summer, and that he had, in August 4th, 2016, warned his counterpart that Russia's FSB intelligence agency Alexander Bortnikov against further interference. The first public U.S. government assertion of Russian efforts to influence the 2016 election came in a joint statement on September 22nd, 2016, by Senator Dianne Feinstein and Representative Adam Schiff, the top Democrats in the Senate and the House Intelligence Committees, respectively. So, at the Aspen Security Conference in the summer of 2016, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper said Vladimir Putin wanted to retaliate against perceived U.S. intervention in Russian affairs with the 2011 to 2013 Russian protests and the ousting of Viktor Yanukovych in the 2014 Ukraine crisis. In July 2016, consensus grew within the CIA that Russia had hacked the DNC. In a joint statement on October 7, 2016, the Department of Homeland Security and the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence expressed confidence that Russia had interfered in the presidential election by stealing emails from politicians and the U.S. groups and publicizing the information. On December 2nd, intelligence sources told CNN they had gained confidence that Russia's efforts were aimed at helping Trump win the election. So on October 7th, the U.S. government formally accused Russia of hacking the DNC's computer networks to interfere in the 2016 presidential election with the help of organizations like WikiLeaks. The Department of Homeland Security and Office of the Director of National Intelligence on Election Security claimed in their joint statement the recent disclosures of alleged hacked emails on sites like DCLeaks.com and WikiLeaks and by Guccifer 2.0 online persona are consistent with the methods and motivations of Russian-directed efforts. This was corroborated by a report released by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in conjunction with the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA on January 6th, 2017. So now U.S. intelligence agencies they found out about Russia's attempts. Or I shouldn't say attempts because they were successful, but they just found out that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So, on December 9th, the CIA told the U.S. legislators the U.S. Intelligence Committee had concluded in a consensus view that Russia conducted operations to assist Donald Trump in winning the presidency, stating that the individuals with connections to the Russian government, previously known to the intelligence community had given WikiLeaks hacked emails from the DNC and John Podesta. The agency further stated that Russia had hacked the RNC as well, but did not leak information obtained from there. These assessments were based on evidence obtained before the election. So the FBI had been investigating Russian government's attempt to influence the 2016 presidential election, including whether the campaign associates of Donald Trump's were involved in Russia's efforts since July 31st, 2016. Following the July 22nd application of a large number of emails by WikiLeaks, the FBI announced that it would investigate the theft of DNC emails. And an earlier event investigated by the FBI was a May 2016 meeting between the Donald Trump campaign foreign policy advisor John Papadopoulos and Alexander Downer in a London wine bar, where Papadopoulos disclosed his inside knowledge of a large trove of Hillary Clinton emails that could potentially damage her campaign. Papadopoulos had gained his knowledge on March 14, 2016, when he held a meeting with Joseph Mifsud, who told Papadopoulos the Russians had dirt on Clinton in the form of thousands of stolen emails. This occurred before the hacking of the DNC computers had become public knowledge, and Papadopoulos later bragged that the Trump campaign was aware the Russian government had dirt on Hillary Clinton. On February 2019, Michael Cohen implicated Trump before the U.S. Congress, writing that Trump had knowledge that Roger Stone was communicating with WikiLeaks about releasing emails stolen from the DNC in 2016. So, what do you think of that?
Scandalous.
Yeah, it's very
all
scandalous.
of that, and I don't understand how he's still the president. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, man. It's mind-boggling for sure. So, John Podesta later testified...
I don't understand.
Yeah. So, John Podesta later testified before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence that on April 2016, the DNC did not know the computers had been hacked, leading Adam Schiff to state, "So if the campaign wasn't aware in April about that the hacking had even occurred, the first campaign would to be notified the Russians were in possession of stolen emails would have been the Trump campaign through Mr. Papadopoulos." So in June 2016, the FBI notified the Illinois Republican Party that some of its email accounts may have been hacked. On December 2016, an FBI official stated that Russian attempts to access the RNC server were unsuccessful. In an interview with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News, RNC chair Reince Priebus stated they communicated with the FBI when they learned about the DNC hacks, and a review determined their servers were secure. On January 10, 2017, FBI Director James Comey told the Senate Intelligence Committee that Russia succeeded in collecting some information from Republican-affiliated targets, but did not leak it to the public. So on Halloween 2016, the New York Times said the FBI had been examining possible connections between the Trump campaign and Russia, but did not find any clear links. At the time, FBI officials thought Russia was motivated to undermine confidence in the U.S. political process, rather than specifically support Trump. During the House Intelligence Committee hearing in early December, the CIA said it was certain of Russia's intent to help Trump. On December 16, 2016, CIA Director John O'Brennan sent a message to his staff saying that he had spoken with FBI Director James Comey and Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, and that all agreed with the CIA's conclusion that Russia interfered with the presidential election with the motive of supporting Donald Trump's candidacy. On December 29, 2016, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security released an unclassified report that gave new technical details regarding the methods used by Russian intelligence services for affecting the U.S. election government, political organizations, and private sector. The report included malware samples and other technical details as evidence that the Russian government had hacked the Democratic National Committee. Alongside the report, DHS published Internet Protocol addresses, malware, and files used by Russian hackers. An article in the Süddeutsche Zeitung discussed the difficulty of proof in matters of cybersecurity. One analyst told Süddeutsche Zeitung that U.S. intelligence services would be keeping some information secret to protect their sources and analysis methods. Clapper later said the classified version contained a lot of substantiation that could not be put in the public report. On March 20th, 2017, during public testimony to the House Intelligence Committee, FBI Director James Comey confirmed the existence of an FBI investigation into the Russian interference and Russian links to the Trump campaign, including the question of whether there had been any coordination between the campaign and the Russians. He said the investigation began in July 2016. Comey made an unusual decision to reveal the ongoing investigation to Congress, citing benefit to the public good. On October 7, 2016, Secretary Johnson and Director Clapper issued a joint statement that the intelligence community is confident the Russian government directed the recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, including from U.S. political organizations, and that the disclosures of hacked emails on sites like DCleaks.com and WikiLeaks are consistent with the Russian-directed efforts. The statement also noted that the Russians had used similar tactics and techniques across Europe and Eurasia to influence public opinion there. On December 29, 2016, DHS and FBI released a joint analysis report, which further expands on that statement by providing details of the tools, infrastructure used by Russian intelligence services to compromise and exploit networks and infrastructure associated with the U.S. election, as well as the U.S. government, political, and private sector entities. So that's the entire story of like the FBI's involvement in this investigation. So they basically came to the same conclusion that everybody else is coming. So everyone else is coming to the same conclusion now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So on January 16th, 2017, after briefing the president-elect, and members of the Senate and the House, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a declassified version of the report on Russian activities. The intelligence community assessment, produced by the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and the ODNI, asserted that Russia had carried out a massive cyber operation ordered by Russian President Vladimir Putin with the goal to sabotage the 2016 U.S. elections. The agencies concluded that Putin and the Russian government tried to help Trump win the election by discrediting Clinton and portraying her negatively relative to Trump, and that Russia had conducted a multi-pronged cyber campaign consisting of hacking and an extensive use of social media and trolls, as well as open propaganda on Russian-controlled news platforms. The ICA contained no information about how the data was collected and provided no evidence underlying its conclusions. Clapper said the declassified version contained substantiation that could not be made public. A large part of the ICA was dedicated to criticizing Russian TV channel RT America, which it described as a messaging tool for a Kremlin-directed campaign to undermine faith in the U.S. government and fuel political protest. On March 5th, 2017, James Clapper said in an interview with Chuck Todd in Meet the Press that the January 2017 ICA did not have the evidence of collusion, but that it might have become available after he left the government. He agreed with Todd that the idea of collusion was not proven at the time. On May 14, 2017, in an interview with George Stephanopoulos, Clapper explained more about the state of evidence for or against any collusion at the time of the January IC assessment, saying there was no evidence of any collusion included in that report. That's not to say that there wasn't evidence. He also stated that he was also unaware of the existence of the formal investigation at the time. On November 2017, Clapper explained that at the time of the Stephanopoulos interview, he did not know about the efforts of George Papadopoulos to set up meetings between Trump associates and Kremlin officials, nor about the meeting of the Trump Tower between Don Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, and a Russian lawyer. In June 2017, E.W. Priestap, the assistant director to the FBI Counterintelligence Division, told the PBS NewsHour program that Russian intelligence used fake news and propaganda, and they also used online amplifiers to spread the information to as many people as possible during the election. So, do we believe these people that they just didn't know that this was going on?
No.
No, why not?
Whatever. They're just trying to. We didn't know. It's not our fault.
Right. You think they're just trying to deny guilt?
Yeah. I had no part of that.
Right. So let's see what Comey has to say. So, in testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee on June 8th, former FBI Director James Comey said that he had no doubt Russia interfered in the 2016 election and that the interference was a hostile act. Concerning the motives of his dismissal, Comey said, "I take the president at his word that I was fired because of the Russian investigation. Something about the way I was conducting it, the president felt, created pressure on him he wanted to relieve." He also said that while he was director, Trump was not under investigation. So what do we feel about that?
So while he was a director, Trump wasn't under investigation. So it was the elections that were under the investigation, not Trump.
Right, but Trump fired him anyway.
Yeah, because he was finding out everything he didn't want him to find out.
Exactly.
And he wasn't hiding it. Just putting it out there. He was like, this is what's going on.
Exactly.
Doing my job.
So, at least 17 distinct investigations were started to examine aspects of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. elections. So, members of the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee traveled to Ukraine and Poland in 2016 and learned about Russian operations to influence their elections. Senator McCain called for a special elect committee of the U.S. Senate to investigate Russian meddling in the election, and called election meddling an act of war. So the Senate Intelligence Committee began work on its bipartisan inquiry January 2017. In May, the committee voted unanimously to give both chairmen solo subpoena power. Soon after, the committee issued a subpoena to the Trump campaign for all Russia-related documents, emails, and telephone records. And in December, it was also looking at the presidential campaign of Green Party's Jill Stein for potential collusion with the Russians. In May 2018, the Senate Intelligence Committee released the interim findings of their bipartisan investigation, finding that Russia interfered in the 2016 U.S. election with the goal of helping Trump gain the presidency, stating, "Our staff concluded that the intelligence community's conclusions were accurate and on point. The Russian effort was extensive, sophisticated, and ordered by President Putin himself for the purpose of helping Donald Trump and hurting Hillary Clinton." On January 2018, Senator Ben Cardin of the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee released Putin's asymmetric assault on democracy and Russia and Europe, implications for U.S. national security. The report said the interference of the 2016 U.S. elections was a part of Putin's asymmetric assault on democracy worldwide, including targeting elections in a number of countries such as Britain, France, and Germany by Moscow-sponsored hacking, internet trolling, and financing for extremist political groups. So it looks like Russia isn't just targeting the U.S., they're targeting multiple countries by trying to rig elections. Yeah. So the Senate Intelligence Committee commissioned 2 reports that extensively described the Russian campaign to influence social media during the 2016 election. Both were based largely on data provided by involved social media companies like Facebook and Twitter. So one report, the Tactics and Tropes of the Internet Research Agency, was produced by the New Knowledge cybersecurity company, aided by researchers at Columbia University and Canfield Research LLC. Another, which is the IRA, the social media and political polarization in the United States of 2012 to 2018, by the Computational Propaganda Project of Oxford University, along with the social media analysis of company Graphica. The New Knowledge report highlighted the energy and imagination of the Russian effort to sway American opinion and divide the country, and their focus on African Americans. The report identified more than 263 million engagements, which was like likes, comments, shares, that kind of thing, with Internet Research Agency contact, and faulted U.S. social media companies for allowing their platforms to be co-opted for foreign propaganda. Now we're in present day. We're in 2020. Want to hear about what happened in 2020?
Sure.
Yeah.
What happened?
So now we're in the year that we're recording in 2020. So on April 21st, 2020, the Senate Intelligence Committee released a unanimous, heavily redacted report following the January 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment on Russian interference. The committee felt that the assessment brought a coherent and well-constructed intelligence basis for the case unprecedented Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Specifically, that the interference was unprecedented in its manner and aggressiveness. The Senate committee heard specific intelligence reporting to support the assessment that Putin and the Russian government demonstrated preference for candidate Trump, and that Putin approved and directed the interference. The committee praised the assessment as an impressive accomplishment, noting that the assessment reflects proper analytic tradecraft despite a limited time frame. The committee also stated that interviews with those who drafted and prepared the ICA affirmed that analysts were under no political pressure to reach specific conclusions. A disengagement between the CIA and the NSA of the agency's confidence level of Russia preference for Trump was reasonable, transparent, and openly debated among the agencies and analysts. Additionally, the committee found that the Steele dossier was not used by the assessment to support any of its analytic judgments. On August 17th, 2020, the Republican-controlled Senate Intelligence Committee released the fifth and final volume of their 996-page report, ending one of the United States' highest profile in congressional inquiries. The committee report, which was based on 3 years of investigations, found that the Russian government had engaged in an extensive campaign to sabotage the election in favor of Trump, which included assistance from some members of Trump's own advisors. Volume 5 said the Trump administration had used novel claims of executive privilege to obstruct the inquiry. The report said that Trump's 2016 campaign staff were eager to accept Russia's help. However, after the release of the report, Acting Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Marco Rubio issued a statement stating the committee found absolutely no evidence that then-candidate Donald Trump nor his campaign colluded with the Russian government to meddle with the 2016 election. So what do you think about that?
Larky.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So after bipartisan calls to action on December 2016, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence launched an investigation on January 2017 about Russian election meddling, including possible ties between Trump's campaign and Russia. Excuse me. The Senate Intelligence Committee launched its own parallel probe in January as well. 15 months later, in April 2018, the House Intelligence Committee's Republican majority released its final report amid harsh criticism from Democratic members of the committee. The report found no evidence of collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. So on February 24th, 2017, Republican Congressman Darrell Issa called for a special prosecutor to investigate whether Russia meddled with the U.S. election and was in contact with Trump's team during the presidential campaign, saying it would be improper for Trump's appointee, former Attorney General Jeff Sessions, to lead the investigation. On March 2017, Democratic Ranking Committee member Adam Schiff said that there was sufficient evidence to warrant further investigation, and claimed to have seen more than circumstantial evidence of collusion. On April 6, 2017, Republican Committee Chairman Devin Nunes temporarily recused himself from the investigation after the House Ethics Committee announced that it would investigate accusations that he had disclosed classified information without authorization. He was replaced by Representative Mike Conaway. Nunes was cleared of wrongdoing on December 8, 2017. The committee's probe was shut down on March 12, 2018, acknowledging the Russians interfered in the 2016 elections through an active measures campaign, promoting propaganda and fake news, but rejecting the conclusion of intelligence agencies that Russia had favored Trump in the election. Although some Republican committee members distanced themselves from this assertion. The committee's report did not find any evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government's efforts. Conaway said they had uncovered only perhaps some bad judgment and inappropriate meetings. So, what do you have to say about that?
It's all BS.
Really?
You know, like everything was going the way it was supposed to be going until it looks like Comey got fired. Now everything is all. But wait, okay, maybe we could say that they did have something to do with it, but Trump had no idea. He wasn't connected.
Right. Even though do you think he was connected? Because I kind of do.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So let's see what the Democrats have to say. So the Democrats on the committee objected to the Republicans' closure of the investigation and their refusal to press key witnesses for further testimony or documentation, which might have further established complicity of the Trump campaign with Russia. Schiff issued a 21-page status report outlining plans to continue the investigation, including a list of potential witnesses to interview and documents to request. So, let's see what Obama has to do with this. So, the U.S. President Obama and Vladimir Putin had a discussion about computer security issues in September 2016, which took place over the course of an hour and a half. During the discussion, which took place as a side segment during the then ongoing G20 summit in China, the Obama made his views known in cybersecurity matters between the U.S. and Russia. Obama said Russian hacking stopped after his warning to Putin. 1 month after that discussion, the email links from the DNC cyber attack had not ceased, and President Obama decided to contact Putin via the Moscow-Washington hotline, commonly known as the Red Phone. On Halloween 2016, Obama emphasized the gravity of the situation by telling Putin international law, including the law for armed conflict, applies to actions in cyberspace. On December 9, 2016, Obama ordered the U.S. intelligence community to investigate Russian interference in the election and report before he left the office on January 20th, 2017. U.S. Homeland Security Advisor and Chief Counterterrorism Advisor to the President, Lisa Monaco, announced the study and said foreign intrusion to the U.S. election was unprecedented and would necessitate investigation by subsequent administrations. The intelligence analysis could cover malicious cyber warfare occurring between 2008 and 2016 elections. A senior administration official said that the White House was confident Russia interfered in the election. The official said that the order by President Obama would be a lessons learned report with options including sanctions and covert cyber response against Russia. On December 12, 2016, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest was critical of Trump's rejection of the collusions of the U.S. intelligence community. That Russia used cyber attacks to influence the elections. United States Secretary of State John Kerry spoke on the December 15th, 2016, about Obama's decision to approve the December 2016 joint statement by the Department of Homeland Security and the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence. Okay. So Obama said... Okay. So Obama said the U.S. government would respond to Russia via overt and covert methods in order to send unambiguous symbol to the world that any such interference would have harsh consequences. On December 15, 2016, interview by NPR journalist Steve Inskeep. So he added that a motive behind the Russian operation could better be determined after the completion of the intelligence report he ordered. Obama emphasized that Russian efforts caused more harm to Clinton than to Trump during the campaign. At a press conference the following day, he highlighted his September 2016 admonition to Putin to cease engaging in cyber warfare against the U.S. Obama explained that the U.S. did not publicly reciprocate against Russia's actions due to a fear such choices would appear partisan. President Obama stressed cyber warfare against the U.S. would be a bipartisan issue. In the last days of the Obama administration, officials pushed as much raw intelligence as possible into analysis and attempted to keep reports at relatively low classification levels as part of an effort to widen their visibility across the federal government. The information was filed in many locations within federal agencies as a precaution against future concealment or destruction of evidence in the event of any investigation. So what do we think about Obama's reaction to all this?
I think he was doing all he could do before he was out. I think he did as much as he could to try to prove that this was bullshit.
Right. So let's see. So on December 29th, 2016, the U.S. government announced a series of punitive measures against Russia. The Obama administration imposed sanctions on 4 top officials of the GRU and declared persona non grata. 35 Russian diplomats suspected of spying, they were ordered to leave the country within 72 hours. On December 30th, 2 waterfront compounds used as retreats by families of Russian embassy personnel were shut down on orders of the U.S. government, citing spying activities. One in Upper Brooksville, New York, on Long Island, and the other in Centreville, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore. So that's what that is. So further sanctions against Russia were undertaken, and both overt and covert. The White House statement said that cyber warfare by Russia was geared to undermine U.S. trust in democracy and impact the election. President Obama said that his decision was taken after previous warnings to Russia. In mid-July 2017, the Russian Foreign Ministry said the U.S. was refusing to issue visas to Russian diplomats to allow Moscow to replace the expelled personnel and get its embassy back up to full strength. Initially, Putin refrained from retaliatory measures to the December 29th sanctions and invited all of the children of the U.S. diplomats accredited in Russia to New Year's and Christmas celebrations at the Kremlin. He also said that steps for restoring Russian-American relations would be built on the basis of the policies developed by the Trump administration. Later in May 2017, Russian banker Andrei Kostin, an associate of President Vladimir Putin, accused the Washington elite of purposefully disrupting the presidency of Donald Trump. So, what do we say about that?
Shut up.
Okay. So, on June 2017, the Senate voted 98-2 for a bill that had been initially drafted in January by a bipartisan group of senators over Russia's continued involvement in the wars in Ukraine and Syria, and its meddling in the 2016 election that envisaged sanctions on Russia as well as Iran and North Korea. The bill would expand the punitive measures previously imposed by executive orders and convert them into law. An identical bill, introduced by Democrats in the House in July, was passed 419 to 3. So the law forbids the president from lifting earlier sanctions without first consulting Congress, giving them time to reverse such a move. It targets Russia's defense industry by harming Russia's ability to export weapons and allows the U.S. to sanction international companies that work to develop Russia's energy resources. The proposed sanctions also cause harsh criticism and threats of retaliatory measure on the part of the European Union, Germany, and France. On January 29, 2018, the Trump administration notified Congress that it would not impose additional sanctions on Russia under 2017 legislation designed to punish Moscow's meddling in the 2016 U.S. election. The administration insisted that the mere threat of the sanctions outlined the countering of America's adversaries through Sanctions Act would serve as a deterrent, and that implementing the sanctions would therefore be unnecessary. So let's see what Russia has to say about this. So on July 27th, the sanctions bill was being passed by the Senate. Putin pledged a response to this kind of insolence toward our country. Shortly thereafter, Russia's foreign ministry, Sergei Lavrov, demanded that the U.S. reduce its diplomatic and technical personnel to the Moscow embassy and its consulates in St. Petersburg, Ekaterinburg, and Vladivostok to 455 persons. The same as the number of Russian diplomats posted to the U.S. and suspended the use of a retreat compound and a storage facility in Moscow. Putin said that he had made his decision personally and confirmed that the 755 employees of the U.S. diplomatic mission must leave Russia. So now we're going to see what the aftermath of the election is. So as of October 2018, the question of whether Donald Trump won the 2016 election because of the Russian interference had not been given much focus, being declared impossible to determine or ignored in favor of other factors that led to Trump's victory. Joe Benenson, the Clinton campaign's pollster, said we probably will never know, while Richard Burr, the Republican chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said we cannot calculate the impact that foreign meddling and social media had on this election. Michael V. Hayden, a former director of the CIA and the NSA, believes that although the Russian attacks were the most successful covert influence operation in history, what impact they had is not just unknown, it's unknowable. So statistician Nate Silver, writing in February 2018, described himself as fairly agnostic in the question, but notes thematically the Russian interference tactics were consistent with the reasons Clinton lost. So Clinton supporters have been more likely to blame her defeat on campaign mistakes, Comey's reopening of the criminal investigation into her emails, or to the direct intention to whether Trump colluded with Russia. Several high-level Republicans believe Russian interference did not determine the election's outcome, including those who would have benefited from Russia's efforts. President Trump has asserted that the Russians had no impact on our votes whatsoever. Then Vice President Pence had claimed it is the universal conclusion of our intelligence communities that none of the efforts had any impact on the outcome of the 2016 election. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also said the Intelligence Committee's assessment is that the Russians' meddling that took place did not affect the outcome of the election. In fact, the official intelligence assessment of January 2017 did not evaluate whether Russian activities had any impact on the election's outcome. The CIA spokesman Dean Boyd said Pompeo's remark was erroneous. Paul Ryan also claimed that it was clear that the Russian interference didn't have a material effect on our elections. So do we believe that?
No.
No, why not?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So, on the other hand, a number of foreign intelligence and law enforcement officials, at least one political scientist and one former U.S. president, argue that Russian interference was decisive because the sophistication of the Russian propaganda on social media, the hacking of the Democratic Party emails, and the timing of their public release. The small shift in voter support needed to achieve victory in the Electoral College and the relatively high number of undecided voters who may be more readily influenced. James Clapper, the former director of National Intelligence, told Jane Mayer it stretches credulity to think that the Russians didn't turn the election. I think the Russians had more to do with making Clinton lose than Trump did. Ex-FBI agent Clint Watts writes that without Russian influence, I believe Trump would not even been within striking distance of Clinton on election day. Former President Jimmy Carter said he believes Trump would not have gotten elected without Russian interference. Carter believes that Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf. When questioned, he agreed that Trump is an illegitimate president. Do you agree?
100%.
Okay. So 3 states where Trump won by very close margins significantly less than the number of voters cast for the third-party candidates in those states, gave him an electoral college majority. Mayer writes that if only 12% of these third-party voters were persuaded by Russian propaganda based on hacked Clinton campaign analytics not to vote for Clinton, this would have been enough to win the election for Trump. Political scientist Kathleen Hall Jamieson, in a detailed forensic analysis, concludes that Russian trolls and hackers persuaded enough Americans to either vote a certain way or not vote at all, thus impacting election results. Specifically, Jamieson argues that 2 events that had caused a drop in intention to vote for Clinton, reported to pollsters, can be traced to Russian work. The publicizing of excerpts of speeches by Clinton made to investment banks for high fees, stolen from campaign emails during the presidential debates, and the effect of Russian disinformation on FBI head Comey's public denunciation of Clinton's actions as completely careless. So, on May 9th, 2017, Trump dismissed Comey, attributing his action to recommendations from United States Attorney General Jeff Sessions and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Trump had been talking to aides about firing Comey for at least a week before acting, and had asked Justice Department officials to come up with a rationale for dismissing him. After he learned that Trump was about to fire Comey, Rosenstein submitted to Trump a memo critical of Comey's conduct in the investigation about Hillary Clinton's emails. Trump later confirmed that he had intended to fire Comey regardless of any Justice Department recommendation. Trump himself also tied the firing to Russian investigation in a televised interview, stating, "When I decided to fire Comey, I said to myself, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. It's an excuse by the Democrats for having lost the election that they should have won." So the dismissal came as a surprise to Comey and most of Washington, and was described as immediately controversial and having vast political ramifications because of the Bureau's ongoing investigation into Russian activities of the 2016 election. It was compared with the Saturday Night Massacre, President Richard Nixon's termination of Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox, who had been investigating the Watergate scandal, and to the dismissal of Sally Yates on January 2017. So Comey himself stated, "It's my judgment that I was fired because of the Russia investigation. I was fired in some way to change, or the endeavor was to change, the way the Russia investigation was being conducted." So during a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, the ambassador Sergei Kislyak on May 10th, 2017, in the Oval Office, Trump told Russian officials that firing the FBI Director James Comey had relieved great pressure on him. According to the White House document, Trump stated, "I just fired the head of the FBI. He was crazy, a real nut job. I faced great pressure because of Russia. That's taken off. In January 2019, the Washington Post revealed that Trump also told Lavrov and Kislyak during his meeting that he wasn't concerned about Russia interfering in American elections. So I heard you going like about that. So tell me why you did that.
It's because of what he said about what the firing and why he got fired, and then I can't remember what I said that for, but I think that's what it was for.
Yeah, it's because he said that that Comey was a nut job.
Yeah, no, he's a nut job.
Yeah, you think he's a nut job?
He
Trump
just
is.
expects everybody to do everything he says, and when they don't, he doesn't want anything to do with them, and they're crazy, and they're whatever. Mm-hmm. They're liberals. They're the far left.
Right. They're Antifa.
Yeah. Ugh. You watched the debate?
I did. That was a real dumpster fire.
I thought of your mom when we were watching it.
I know. She told me you called her.
I texted her. I was like, "Are you watching this?"
That was something. Yeah. So, let's talk about Robert Mueller. So on May 17, 2017, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller as special counsel to direct FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors investigating election interference by Russia and related matters. As special counsel, Mueller was the power to issue subpoenas, hire staff members, request funding, and prosecute federal crimes in connection to his investigation. Mueller assembled a legal team. Trump engaged several attorneys to represent and advise him, including his longtime personal attorney, Mark Kasowitz, as well as Jay Sekulow, Michael Bowe, and John M. Dowd. All but Sekulow has since resigned. On August 2017, Mueller was using a grand jury. So in October 2017, Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty earlier in the month to making a false statement to the FBI investigators about his connections to Russia. In his first guilty plea of special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, George Papadopoulos admitted to lying to the FBI about contact with Russian agents who offered the campaign thousands of damaging emails about Clinton months before then candidate Donald Trump asked Russia to find Hillary Clinton's missing emails. His plea agreement said a Russian operative had told a campaign aide the Russians had emails of Clinton. Papadopoulos agreed to cooperate with prosecutors as part of the plea bargain. Later that month, former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort surrendered to the FBI after being indicted on several charges. His business associate Rick Gates was also indicted and surrendered to the FBI. The pair were indicted on one count of conspiracy against the United States, one count of conspiracy to launder money, one count of being unregistered agent of a foreign principal, one count of making false and misleading FARA statements, and one count of making false statements. Manafort was charged with 4 counts of failing to file reports of foreign bank and financial accounts, while Gates was charged with 3. All charges arise from their consulting work for pro-Russian government in Ukraine and are unrelated to the campaign. It was widely believed that the charges against Manafort are intended to pressure him into becoming a cooperating witness about Russian interference in the 2016 election. In February 2018, Gates pleaded guilty to fraud-related charges and agreed to testify against Manafort. On April 2018, when Manafort's lawyer filed a motion to suppress the evidence obtained during the February 26th raid on Manafort's home, the warrants for the search were revealed and indicated that, in addition to seeking evidence related to Manafort's work in Ukraine, Mueller's investigation also concerned Manafort's actions during the Trump campaign, including the meeting with a Russian lawyer and a counterintelligence officer at the Trump Tower meeting on June 9, 2016. On March 2018, the investigation revealed that the prosecutors have established links between Rick Gates and an individual with ties to Russian intelligence, which occurred while Gates worked on Trump's campaign. A report filed by prosecutors concerning the sentencing of Gates and Manafort associate Alex von der Zwaan, who lied to Mueller's investigators, alleges that Gates knew the individual he was in contact with had all these connections. So, now people are going to jail now.
I'm getting really tired, though.
You're getting really tired?
It's really late.
We're almost done, I promise.
Oh my god. Okay.
We're almost done, I promise. So
should have been a two-parter.
It should have been a two-parter. Okay, so we're almost. This is a whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I told you it was going to be long. There's a lot of stuff. So, yeah. On February 16, 2018, a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. indicted 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian entities in charges of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud and fraud with identification documents in connection with the 2016 United States national elections. The 37-page indictment cites illegal use of social media to sow political discord, including actions that supported the presidential candidacy of Donald Trump and disparaged his opponent Hillary Clinton. On the same day, Robert Mueller announced that Richard Pinedo had pleaded guilty to using the identities of other people in connection with unlawful activity. Lawyers representing Concord Management and Consulting appeared on May 9, 2018 in federal court in Washington to plead not guilty to the charges. The prosecutors subsequently withdrew the charges. On July 13, 2018, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein released indictments returned by a grand jury charging 12 intelligence officials who work for the Russian intelligence agency GRU with conspiracy to interfere with the 2016 elections. The individuals posing as a Guccifer 2.0 persona were accused of hacking into computers of the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee, as well as the state election boards and securities of several states in one unidentified state. In one unidentified state, the Russians stole information on 500,000 voters. The indictment also said the Republican congressional candidate, also unidentified, had been sent to the campaign documents stolen by the group, and that a reporter was in contact by the Russian operatives and offered to write an article to coincide with the release of the stolen documents. So, in March 2018, Anastasia Veshukovich, a Belarusian national arrested in Thailand, said she had over 16 hours of audio recordings that could shed light on a possible Russian interference in American elections. She offered the recordings to American authorities in exchange for asylum to avoid being extradited to Belarus. Veshukovich said she was close to Oleg Deripaska, a Russian oligarch with ties to Putin and business links to Paul Manafort, had asserted the recordings included Deripaska discussing the 2016 presidential election. She said some of the recorded conversations, which she asserted were made in August 2016, included 3 individuals who spoke fluent English, and who she believed were Americans. Veshukovich's claims appeared to be consistent with a video published in February 2018 by Alexei Navalny about a meeting between Deripaska and Russian Deputy Prime Minister Sergei Eduardovich Prihodko. In the video, Navalny claims Deripaska served as a liaison between Russian government and Paul Manafort in connection with Russian interference efforts. On August 2018, Veshukovich said she no longer has any evidence having sent the recordings to Deripaska without having made them public. So, hoping she would be able to gain her release from hoping he would be able to gain her release from prison, and was promised Deripaska not to make any further comment on the recording's contents. So that happened. So on March 24th, Attorney General Barr sent a 4-page letter to Congress regarding the special counsel's findings regarding Russian interference, obstruction of justice. Barr said that on the question of Russian interference in the election, Mueller detailed 2 ways in which Russia attempted to influence the election in Trump's favor, but did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. On the question of obstruction of justice, Barr said that Mueller wrote, "While his report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him." The special counsel's decision to describe the facts of his obstruction investigation without reaching any legal conclusions leaves it to the Attorney General to determine whether the conduct described in the report constitutes a crime. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, and this is him talking, have concluded that the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation is not sufficient to establish the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. On April 18th, 2019, a redacted version of the final Mueller report was released to the public. The Mueller report found that the Russian government interfered in the election in sweeping and systemic fashion and violated U.S. criminal laws. On May 29, 2019, Mueller announced that he was retiring as special counsel and the office would be shut down, and he spoke publicly about the report for the first time. He reiterated that his report did not exonerate the president and that legal guidelines prevented the indictment of the sitting president, stating that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing, saying, "The report is my testimony." He indicated he would have nothing to say that was not already in the report. He emphasized that the central conclusion of his investigation was that there were multiple systemic efforts to interfere with our election. That allegation deserves the attention of every American. Soon after the release of the Mueller report, Trump began urging an investigation into the origins of the Russian investigation, wanting to investigate the investigators. On April 2019, Attorney General William Barr announced that he had launched a review of the origins of the FBI's investigations. The origins of the probe were already being investigated by the Justice Department's Inspector General and by U.S. Attorney John Huber, who was appointed in 2018 by Jeff Sessions. He assigned U.S. Attorney John Durham to lead it. Excuse me. Durham had given authority to broadly examine the government's collection of intelligence involving the Trump's campaign's interactions with Russians, reviewing government documents, and requesting voluntary witness statements. Trump directed the American intelligence community to promptly provide assistance and information to Barr and delegated him to the full and complete authority to declassify any governments related to his probe. In September 2019, it was reported that Barr had been contacting foreign governments to ask for help in this mission. He personally traveled to the United Kingdom and Italy to seek information, and at Barr's request, Trump phoned the Prime Minister of Australia about the subject. During the course of the 2016 presidential campaign and up to his inauguration, Donald Trump and at least 17 campaign officials and advisors had numerous contacts with Russian nationals, with WikiLeaks, or with intermediaries between the two. As of January 28th, the New York Times had tailed more than 100 in-person meetings, phone calls, text messages, emails, and private messages on Twitter between the Trump campaign and Russians, or WikiLeaks. In spring of 2015, U.S. intelligence agencies started overhearing conversations in which Russian government officials discuss associates of Donald Trump. British and the Dutch intelligence have given information to the United States intelligence about meetings in European cities between Russian officials, associates of Putin, and associates of then President-elect Trump. American intelligence agencies also intercepted communications of Russian officials, some of them within the Kremlin, discussing contacts with Trump associates. Multiple Trump associates were reported to have had contacts with senior Russian intelligence officials during 2016, although in February 2017, U.S. officials says they did not have evidence that Trump's campaign had cooperated with the Russians to influence the election. As of March 2017, the FBI was investigating Russian involvement in the election, including alleged links between Trump's associates and the Russian government. In particular, Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak had met several Trump campaign members and administration nominees. The people involved have discussed those meetings as routine conversations in preparation for assuming the presidency. Trump's team had issued at least 20 denials concerning communications between the campaign and Russian officials. Several of these denials turned out to be false. In the early months of 2017, Trump and other senior White House officials asked the Director of National Intelligence, the NSA Director, the FBI Director, and two chairs of congressional committees to publicly dispute the news reports about contacts between Trump and associates of Russia. Okay. So the Trump campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, had several contacts with senior Russian intelligence officials during 2016, which he denied. Intercepted communications during the campaign show that Russian officials believed they could use Manafort to influence Trump. The Mueller investigation and Senate Intelligence Committee found that as Trump's campaign manager in August 2016, Manafort shared Trump campaign internal polling data with Ukrainian political consultant Konstantin Kilimnik, whom the Mueller report linked to Russian intelligence. While the Intelligence Committee characterized him as a Russian intelligence officer, Manafort gave Kilimnik data from Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, states the Russian Internet Research Agency, specifically targeted for social media and ad campaigns. Trump won those three states by narrow margins, and they were key to his election. In 2017, Manafort was indicted on the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia on various charges arising from consulting work for pro-Russian government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine before Yanukovych's overthrow in 2014, as well as the Eastern District of Virginia for 8 charges of tax and bank fraud. He was convicted of fraud charges in August 2019 and sentenced to 47 months in prison by Judge T.S. Ellis. Although all the 2017 charges arose from special counsel investigation, none of them were for any alleged conclusion to interfere with U.S. elections. So on December 2015, retired Army General Michael Flynn was photographed at a dinner seated next to Vladimir Putin. He was in Moscow to give a paid speech, which he failed to disclose is as required by former high-ranking military officers. Also seated at the head table are Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein and members of Putin's inner circle, including Sergei Ivanov, Dmitry Peskov, Vexelberg, and Alexei Gromov. On February 2016, Flynn was named an advisor to Trump's presidential campaign. Later that year, in phone calls intercepted by U.S. intelligence, Russian officials were overheard claiming that they had formed a strong relationship with Trump advisor Michael Flynn and believed that they would be able to use him to influence Trump and his team. So on December 6, 2016, Flynn, then Trump's designated choice to be national security advisor, and Jared Kushner met with Russian ambassador to the United States, Sergei Kislyak, and requested him to set up a direct encrypted line of communication so they could communicate directly with the Kremlin, without the knowledge of American intelligence agencies. 3 anonymous sources claimed that there was no such channel was actually set up. On December 29, 2016, the day President Obama announced sanctions against Russia, Flynn discussed the sanctions with Kislyak, urging that Russia not retaliate. Flynn initially denied speaking to Kislyak, then acknowledged the conversation but denied discussing the sanctions. When it was revealed in February 2017 that U.S. intelligence agencies had evidence through monitoring of the ambassador's communications that he actually had discussed sanctions, Flynn said he couldn't remember if he did or not. So he just doesn't remember. So upon Trump's inauguration on January 20th, 2017, he appointed Flynn his national security advisor. On January 24th, Flynn was interviewed by the FBI. 2 days later, Acting Attorney General Sally Yates informed the White House that Flynn was compromised by the Russians and possibly open to blackmail. Flynn was forced to resign as National Security Advisor on February 13th, 2017. On December 1st, 2017, Flynn pleaded guilty to single felony count of making false, fictitious, and fraudulent statements to the FBI about his conversations with Kislyak. His plea was part of the plea bargain with special counsel Robert Mueller, under which Flynn also agreed to cooperate with Mueller's investigation. On February 31st, 2018, Mueller filed for and was granted a delay in Flynn's sentencing due to the status of the Russia investigation. On May 1st, 2018, Mueller asked for a second delay in sentencing, requesting at least another 2 months. On July 10th, Flynn's sentencing has begun delayed until at least late October. So I'm going to skip all the way down to the Steele dossier.
Okay, hold on.
Which is going to be the last bit we're going to be talking about tonight.
Okay, I see it.
Okay. So on June 2016, Christopher Steele, a former MI6 agent, was hired by Fusion GPS to produce opposition research on Donald Trump on October 2015. Before Steele was hired, Trump's Republican political opponents had hired Fusion GPS to do opposition research on Trump. When they stopped their funding, Fusion GPS hired Steele to continue that research, but with more focus on Trump's Russian connections. In the beginning, he did not know the identities of Fusion GPS's ultimate clients, which were the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign. His reports, based on information provided by his witting and unwitting Russian sources and sources close to the Trump campaign, included alleged compromise that may make Trump vulnerable to blackmail from Russia. On October 2016, a 33 compilation was shared with Mother Jones magazine, which describes some of its contents, but other mainstream media would not report on it because they could not confirm the material's credibility. On December 2016, 2 more pages were added alleging efforts by Trump's lawyer to pay those who had hacked the DNC and arranging to cover up any evidence of their deeds. On January 5th, 2017, U.S. intelligence agencies briefed President Obama and President-elect Trump on the existence of these documents. Eventually, the dossier was published in full by BuzzFeed on January 10th. On October 2016, the FBI used the dossier as a report of its justification to obtain a FISA warrant to assume monitoring of former Trump foreign policy advisor Carter Page. However, officials would not say exactly what or how much of the dossier was actually corroborated, and that is the long and short of it. That is the long end of the long tail of the Russian interference in the 2016 United States elections.
That is so crazy to me. With all of that information, and still nothing happens to him.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing.
Well,
it's untouchable.
There is like this I guess you could say like a law that says that you cannot indict a sitting president. So that's probably why.
So it really doesn't matter, like, what he did.
Right. Because he's the president now, and you can't arrest the president.
Even if the president breaks the law?
Pretty much, yeah.
He won his presidency by frauding votes. That's voter fraud. That's against the law.
Well, it wasn't voter fraud, but it was cheating. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. They made like fake people to vote. That's voter fraud. That's creating fake votes.
I don't think that's what happened. I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to sway actual registered voters to either vote for Trump or just not vote at all. As long as they don't vote for Clinton, that was their goal.
I guess, but that's not what I was listening at the very beginning. The whole people that were dead are now all of a sudden alive and voting.
Well, were you thinking of doing this? I don't know. There's so much information I probably forgot.
Yeah, this is too much. It's a lot.
Yeah, like this was a lot of information. A lot of stuff is going on.
I think it's because, well, first Comey is gone, so I don't know. I feel like Robert Mueller really tried, but at the same time, tried to get as many people arrested for this as possible without actually making Trump the person that knew what was going on.
Right. It sounded like Mueller really wanted to be neutral, and he really wanted to be viewed as a neutral guy.
With it not being, there was still bad that happened, and he found that. Right. But if Comey would have stayed in, I think he would have ripped the Band-Aid off of everything.
Right. So, do you think Trump is a legitimate president after all that you've heard? No? No. Why not?
No. Honestly, okay, all the stuff that Hillary had that was coming out about her, and of course these emails that Assange put out there because he just wanted Trump to win or just did not want her to win. So anything to get her to not win. But I think people were more inclined to vote for her because she's been in politics or in the politics area for a really long time. She was first lady for, was it 8 years?
Yeah.
She knows it, and Donald Trump is just some freaking billionaire that's never been involved in politics.
She was Secretary of State too.
Oh my God. But whatever. He was the Secretary of State?
She was. Hillary Clinton was.
No, I'm talking about him. He has no political experience prior to this at all. This is like that meme, like when you lie on your resume,
right,
and get the job type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was one of his platforms was like, I'm not a politician. I'm like you. I'm outside of them. It's that kind of thing.
Really? You're like us? Like all of us are billionaires and we could just pay people to do whatever the hell we want?
Yeah, no. I mean, you don't have millions of dollars like me.
None of us, I wasn't born privileged. He was born with a golden pair of shoes. Right. I mean...
So you're saying that you can't inherit money from your rich father?
You can. You can obviously pay your way to become a president too.
He basically helped, Russia definitely rigged the election for him. Mm-hmm. And mostly the reason why they did that was because they just wanted to get petty revenge on Clinton.
There's that. Yeah, that. Oh, sorry. I'm so tired. It's so late.
Yeah, I know. So do you think this petty revenge was worth it?
No. I mean, I'm sure they're like, oh, well. But, no.
Yeah, no, this is awful, man.
You're just, sitting back over there watching the chaos unfold over here.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with this. Hopefully we can vote him out in a month from now. It's a month from now. Mm-hmm. So, let's see what happens.
Get registered.
Oh, snap. You got your voter registration?
Yeah. I looked it up. It said that I needed to do it again, so I'm just gonna send this in tomorrow. Get myself all set up.
Okay, and then early voting starts in, I think, in a couple of days.
Oh, cool.
Wait, no, in a couple of weeks. It starts in 10 days. So, yeah. Any final thoughts about the Russian interference?
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Really? Why? Oh, well, yeah. That's another thing. Like, a lot of people just straight up deny and just deny.
Oh yeah, they're wearing the Trump blindfolds.
Yeah. And then when they can't deny anymore, they would just say stuff like, "Oh, I just didn't know."
Even when they do know, they don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. So that's the story of the Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. elections. That was a long one, and I left out a couple other stuff that would have lasted another hour. That would have added another hour to this thing. So it's really late. It's like 2 a.m. So we gotta go to bed. So we're gonna say goodbye now. So I've been Nathaniel Avila.
And I'm Jessica Vega. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
Yeah, don't worry. We can always edit them out in post. We'll fix it in post.
Okay.
Okay. And then bye.